Hey guys, I am super stoked today to bring you a bookshelf tour. And the reason for this is multiple. First, I graduated today. Literally today. Like I left my Zoom graduation ceremony and I came to film this video. So it's done, I'm good, I made it, and I've been going over my bookshelves and I've been realizing how many unread books I have on them. I've moved a lot in the last 3 years that it's taken me to get this degree, and I've sent books home that I've read, and I've kept the books that I either love or haven't read with me. And so we're gonna go through my 3 bookshelves today. I'm gonna show you some of my favorite books that I couldn't possibly be parted with, as well as a lot of the books that I haven't read. And I'm hoping that as you guys go through this with me, you're gonna see some books that you're like, you need to read that. So as you see those books, please comment and let me know which ones I should shove to the top, because what I'd like to do this summer is focus on a TBR challenge for myself, i.e. it's on my shelves, so I really need to read it. But this is going to be a long video, so let's just get into it. So this is the first bookshelf that we're going to do, and there's a skylight right up there which makes shooting up here hard, and also I'm sitting on my bed. But this is the only bookshelf that I have up in my bedroom because it is where most of my really special books are. So this top shelf is possibly the most important shelf on all of my bookshelves. This bookshelf is where I put my most loved or important books for one reason or another. And this top shelf is the shelf that I can see literally when I first wake up in the morning. And it's mostly made up of one author, as you can probably already tell. And if you know me, you know the author I'm obsessed with. But anyway, this shelf is the entire Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. I have 2 versions of Throne of Glass, the very shiny collector's edition of Throne of Glass, the hardcover of Throne of Glass, still tabbed up from when I did my undergraduate thesis on this book, Crown of Midnight, Heir of Fire, Queen of Shadows, Empire of Storms, and this does have the Barnes & Noble special edition signed copy sticker on it, but most of these books are actually signed by Sarah from the numerous times that I've seen her on tour. Tower of Dawn, also bought signed, and the final book in the series, Kingdom of Ash, also bought signed. These 5 books are the Court series by Sarah J. Maas. There's so far 3 full novels and a novella. We're getting 3 more books soon. I'm really excited about it. This is the collector's edition of A Court of Thorns and Roses, the actual hardcover of A Court of Thorns and Roses, the second book, A Court of Mist and Fury. This is my favorite book in the entire series. And the final book, A Court of Wings and Ruin. And then you've got the novella, A Court of Frost and Starlight, that is like the bridge to the next 3 books in the series. These 2 books over here are 2 currently standalone Sarah J. Maas titles. This is her recent adult title, Crescent City, book 1 in the House of Earth and Blood series, which just came out a couple of months ago, and I still haven't read it. And this is her Catwoman book, Soul Stealer, which I bought signed at Barnes & Noble, and I also have not read. At this point, you're kind of looking at the 3 books at the end here are there because they fit there. Those are the 3 books in the Illumini files by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. A couple of years ago, you may have seen a video where I call Illumini, which is the first book in the series, one of the top books in that year. So I really do recommend it. It's one of the most interesting books I've ever read. However, awkwardly, I have not yet read the second book, Jamina, or the final book, Obsidio. Hopefully I'll get to those soon. So on shelf 2, we have the first 2 books in Holly Black's Wicked King series. The 3rd book is out, but I don't own it yet. Barnes & Noble exclusive edition of The Wicked King, and the reason it's different is because this is black instead of white. And the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition of the sequel, The Cruel Prince. This has the autograph sticker on it, but Wicked King is also autographed because Holly Black is a local author and she came in and signed these books. I'm kind of waiting on getting a copy of the last book in the series because I'd also like that signed, and I don't quite know how to get a hold of a copy. I should mention that I haven't read either of these books, but I love Holly Black as an author, and they're just on my list of books to get to. Now that the whole series is out, it's kind of more exciting. These 3 books are the hardcover versions of the Queen of the Tearling series by Erica Johansson, hardcover of Queen of the Tearling, hardcover of Invasion of the Tearling, and hardcover of The Fate of the Tearling. And awkwardly, I've only read the first book in this series, the Queen of the Tearling. The next 2 books are on my to-be-read list. Right here we have 2 books in the ARC form. That's why they're awkwardly paperbacks in the middle of this shelf, but these are ARCs of Natasha Nagann's Girl of Paper and Fire, which does not stand up on its own, and the sequel Girls of Storm and Shadow, and this is before there was even a cover for this book, but they are both signed by the author. So this shelf is actually entirely created to put these Tamora Pierce books in the center. It's a false approximation of how many of her books I own. This is my 2nd or 3rd set of the Protector of the Small series, my 2nd set of the Trickster duology, and my 2nd set of the Realm of the Gods series over here. And the rest are all at my house, where I used to live before I moved out and tried to be an adult. So this is Tamora Pierce's latest book, Tempest and Slaughter. It's the first book in a new series that she's doing. I can't wait for the 2nd one, but I was really excited because I love Tamora Pierce and it was blurred by Sarah J. Maas, so yeah. Then you've got the paperback of The First Test, the first book in the Protector of the Small series, tabbed up from when I did a paper on it. Page, the 2nd book. Squire, the 3rd book, and arguably my favorite book in the series. Lady Knight, the final book in the series. So the first book in the Trickster duology, Trickster's Choice, and the 2nd book, Trickster's Queen. I would love to show you what this box set looks like on the covers, but I can't because this box set is still not open, but it is made up of the 4 books, Wild Magic, Wolf Speaker, Emperor Mage, and Realm of the Gods. It's the Immortals Quartet, and the box set is really, really pretty, and we got these awesome dragons. I bought it because there were new covers I didn't have. Tamora Pierce is one of the few authors that I just buy her recovers because I want them all. And I also read them so much that I tend to destroy the other paperbacks that I've owned. The entire end of this shelf is the Red Queen series by Victoria Aveyard. I was not into this series for a while. People kept telling me to read it. I finally did, and I'm so glad that I did. There are 4 books in the actual series, and then Broken Throne is kind of like an addendum add-on, which I got at the launch party she did at a local store, so that Broken Throne is signed. Book 1, Red Queen. Book 2, Glass Sword. Book 3, King's Cage, and this one is the Barnes & Noble exclusive version. Final book in the series, Warstorm, also Barnes & Noble exclusive, and Broken Throne, the collection book, which is signed by Victoria. So this shelf as well is kind of made up of books put on either side of an author I was trying to center, that author being Cassandra Clare, which you can kind of see throughout the whole middle here. However, just because I was trying to front Cassandra Clare doesn't mean that the books on either side are any less interesting. So over here in the corner, you've got 2 ARC versions of Bridget Kemmerer's series that's based on Beauty and the Beast. There is A Curse So Dark and Lonely, and A Heart So Fierce and Broken. I have to admit that I have not yet read A Heart So Fierce and Broken, and I'm really upset with myself about it. Also signed is this version of Nnedi Okorafor's Binti, the complete trilogy. I met her last year and bought this and had her sign it. And then we hit all of these Cassandra Clare books. Some of these are signed, some of them aren't, because I was able to meet her on tour once. And I own every book she's ever put out. This is just the selection of books that either have come out since I left my parents' house or that I brought with me. So this is book 6 in the Mortal Instruments series. That's the final book in that series, City of Heavenly Fire. This is the entire Dark Artifices series, starting with book 1, Lady Midnight. Book 2, Lord of Shadows, with the Barnes & Noble exclusive. And the last book in this trilogy, Queen of Air and Darkness. This is Ghost of the Shadow Market, one of her short story collection compendiums, which I have not read all the short stories in yet, unfortunately. This is the first book in her Magnus and Alex series, Eldest Curses. This is called The Red Scrolls of Magic, and I have definitely read this one because Magnus and Alec are amazing. This is the first book in her newest series, The Last Hours book. This is the collector's first edition, and I still haven't read it. I'm really upset with myself, but listen guys, school was hard. And then kind of off to the side are these two paperbacks that I have. This one of the Bane Chronicles, which is another short story collection about Magnus Bane, which I have read. And this is Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, once again another short story collection, which I have not read. And again, these books on the end here are kind of like, if it fits, it sits. The reason that some of these are here is because they're either really amazing authors that I love or books that I had signed. So this is actually a book I haven't read, but I got signed at last BEA or Book Expo America, The Storm Crow by Kaylin Josephson. Then you've got 3 books by Roshani Chokshi, the first one being The Star-Touched Queen. You have its sequel, A Crown of Wishes. I have read Star-Touched Queen. I have not yet read Crown of Wishes. Then this is actually one of the few representations of middle grade on my shelves. This is signed by Roshani Chokshi, and it's her first book in her Rick Riordan Presents series, Arusha and the End of Time. The 3 books here on the end are by Melinda Lowe. I met her at an author event, and these are all signed. This is A Line in the Dark, Huntress, and Ash. And while all 3 of these books are signed, and I heard Melinda Lowe talk about them, and I fell in love with their story concepts, I have not read all 3 of them. So most of my books are located down here in what is the office on these 2 bookshelves right here. Although as you can kind of start to see, we're running out of room again. Okay, so we're gonna start with the top shelf of the tall blue bookcase, and I am gonna get these things out of the way, but just so you know what it is that I have on them. This is a print of the cover of the illustrated version of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, which is my favorite Harry Potter book that I got from BEA, and I keep it because it's gorgeous, obviously. And then this was a gift from my boyfriend's family for last Christmas because I am a total Disney nerd, and you know, it's Snow Globe. It also makes music, but I'm not going to make you listen to it. So this shelf is one of the few shelves that we're going to find with a vague approximation of organization. The reason for that being that I have moved so many times in the last 3 years that reorganizing my bookshelves every time has just caused me physical harm. So this shelf on the top here is most of my nonfiction or historical fiction so that I know where to find it. So starting with Robert Lacey's The Crown. This is the companion novel to the first season of Netflix's show The Crown. This is Sarah Gristwood's Game of Queens, The Women Who Made 16th Century Europe. I have not yet read this one. I'm kind of sad about it. This is Kara Cooney's When Women Ruled the World, 6 Queens of Egypt. I wanted to be an Egyptologist when I was younger, and still haven't read this one. This is Tracy Borman's latest, Henry VIII, The Men Who Made Him. This was one of my impulse buys when I left Barnes & Noble and my employee discount behind, and I still haven't read it. This is Simon Sebag Montefiore's The Romanovs, about the Russian royal czar family, the Romanovs, and I have read this and also listened to it, and it is very thick and a really wild reading time. This is Sally Bedell Smith's Prince Charles, The Passions and Paradoxes of an Improbable Life. I have read this one and also listened to it. It's a very interesting take on Prince Charles as a member of the royal family. This is She-Wolves by Helen Castor, The Women Who Ruled England Before Elizabeth. I originally bought this book because it had been made into a documentary series that I really, really liked, but I actually haven't gotten around to finishing the book yet. So the rest of these are the paperbacks that are organized by size. I like all my sizes and my authors to go together if possible. Authors over size, though. These are 2 books by Indu Sundarasan, and this is The Feast of Roses. This is historical fiction about ancient India, and these books are actually related. This is The 20th Wife by Indu Sundarasan. I don't think they're technically a series, but they are definitely connected. This is Trevor Noah's Born a Crime, Stories from a South African Childhood. I should have said I read Feast of Roses and 20th Wife. I really like them. I also really like Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. He's my favorite stand-up comedian. This is Codename Verity by Elizabeth Wine, possibly one of the best books I have ever read in my entire life. It's a World War II historical fiction about 2 girls who are best friends, and it's just the best. One of the best books I've ever read. This is Simon Sebag Montefiore's Catherine the Great and Potemkin, The Imperial Love Affair. I bought this after I finished the Romanovs because the Romanovs was such a wild reading experience, but I actually haven't read this one yet. One of my favorite historical fiction authors of all time is Michelle Moran. This is the book that got me into her originally, Nefertiti, Queen of Egypt, Daughter of Eternity. Historical fiction about the one, the only Nefertiti. This is The Heretic Queen by Michelle Moran. It's a follow-up per se to Nefertiti, but it's about the wife of Ramses the Great. You don't have to read one before the other. And then this is Rebel Queen by Michelle Moran. This is actually Indian historical fiction, which I haven't yet read. It's the only book by her, I think, so far that I haven't read. Okay, so moving down, I mean, we're just gonna give up all semblance of me having organized anything. But the two things that are in the way that we're about to move is this picture book, which I took from the library. We discarded it from the picture book section. And it's just an inside joke between me and my boyfriend, which I'm not going to bother to explain because it won't make sense, but just know that it's cute and I can't believe this book exists. This is one of my many scented candles that you'll find in my apartment. I'm a sucker for scented candles, and this one just makes the office smell good. So, moving forward to this shelf, it is moderately organized by hardcover size, trim size of the book. So this is A Circle of Shadows by Evelyn Skye. I am a sucker for anything that says that there are assassins involved in my YA. So obviously I had to buy it, even though I haven't read it yet. This is the arc of Tomi Adeyeme's Children of Blood and Bone. Yes, I had the arc. I could have read it before it was cool, and yet I did not. This is the arc of Nikki Palpretto's Crown of Feathers. I also took this from when I worked at Barnes & Noble before it was cool, and yeah, still haven't read it. And this is the arc of Claire Legrand's Fury Born. Source Books actually sent us like a box of these, which is awesome because one of the other booksellers when I worked at Barnes & Noble had read it and completely sold the rest of us on it. And so of course I took one, and then I never read it. This is a hardcover of Lyra Celine's Amber and Dusk. It was on sale and I liked the cover, so I bought it. Haven't read it. This is a hardcover of Rachel Hawkins' School Spirits. This is part of, or connected to, Rachel Hawkins' Hex Hall series, which is one of my favorite bubblegum series of all time. I still haven't read this one though, and I've been carting this book around unread for quite some time. This is the Barnes & Noble exclusive Astrid Schulte's Four Dead Queens. Looked really cool. The cover's very shiny. It's the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. I still haven't read it. Paperback of Etiquette and Espionage by Gail Carriger. This series was recommended to me, and I still haven't read it. This is an arc of Catherine McGee's American Royals. Based on the royalty on the nonfiction shelf, I guess you can guess why this appealed, but I still haven't read it. This is another one of those, I bought it because my coworkers at Barnes & Noble told me to buy it, and obviously I'm a sucker for their recommendations. This is Naomi Novik's Uprooted. Still haven't read it. This is All American Boys by Jason Reynolds and Brendan Keeley. It is the one book on the shelf that I have read, and it's one of those books I think everyone ever should read. Jason Reynolds is an African-American author, and Brendan Keeley is a white author who worked together to tell this story about police brutality against African-Americans, and it's just so good. This is an arc of Pippa Park Raises Her Game. Again, a rare middle grade book for me because I've worked with this publisher and they sent us the arc, and I haven't read it. This is the back of E.K. Johnson's That Inevitable Victorian Thing. I'm loath to show you the front because this book was taken from Barnes & Noble and it is a strip title. And what that means is that we can take the books home when the publisher doesn't want them sent back but they haven't sold, but we have to rip the front cover off. So there is no front cover, just sad little shell where it used to be. But I got to take the book home. I haven't read it. Tiffany Trent's The Unnaturals. It was blurred by Tamora Pierce, so I bought it. Have I read it? No. Romina Russell's Zodiac. Beware the 13th Sign. This is the first book in this series. The entire series has been finished for some time. I haven't read it. Sarah Fine's The Imposter Queen. It was recommended for fans of Ray Carson and Victoria Aveyard. Obviously, I bought it. I still haven't read it. And again, I want to emphasize that when I moved, I specifically bought the books that I hadn't read. So if you're like, Gretchen, do you read ever? The answer is yes, but I've left those books behind in my many moves or sent them home so that I could hopefully get to my TBR someday. We all know how that goes. So this is the third of 4 shelves on the blue bookcase, but it's actually the last one that we're going to do because the entire bottom of this bookcase is just like random books that I've had for my master's degree program, and it's not going to be exciting. So we're going to finish here and then move on to the shorter gray-ish bookcase. But before we do that, this is some series that are together and a lot of arcs, and you may see things that also look like library books. That's because when books are weeded from the library collection, meaning they no longer circulate, the librarians can possibly take them home. And so that whole series of the YA stickers is library books that are no longer in the library system, and I got to take them home. So let's get started. This is the arc of Laini Taylor's Strange the Dreamer and the arc of the follow-up book, Muse of Nightmares. This one is signed by Laini. I met her at BEA, but I still haven't read the entire series. I own, in some form or fashion, every single book that Kiersten White has ever produced. This is the arc of The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein, which I got at BEA and is signed. This is the Barnes & Noble exclusive of Slayer by Kiersten White, the first book in a Buffy the Vampire Slayer continuation book series, which I'm really excited about, but haven't read. I have literally just realized that these books are backwards. I'm gonna fix this now, but this is a series. This is the first book, Something Strange and Deadly by Susan Dennard, and you can see how the library barcode has been crossed out. That's how you know that it's no longer an active library book. The second book in this series, A Darkness Strange and Lovely, and the third book, Strange and Ever After. This is supposed to be kind of like Sarah J. Maas, kind of like some of the Clockwork books from Cassandra Clare. I love the dresses on the cover. It's an older series now, but I had never read it, and I still haven't read it because I just took these away from the library. This is the arc of The Hate You Give. Yes, I had this before it was cool, and yes, I have read it. Much like All American Boys, this is one of those books where just everyone should read it. This is the arc of Angie Thomas's follow-up book, On the Come Up. Yes, I got the arc. No, I haven't read it. I'm sorry. This is a very old arc of Tessa Gratton's The Lost Son, despite how old it is. I haven't read it. Tessa Gratton's Blood Magic. Again, haven't read it. Tessa Gratton was just an author that was really recommended to me, so I got a couple of her books, but never read them. This is Siege and Storm, the second book in Leigh Bardugo's Grisha series. I read the first book but never finished it, hence why Siege and Storm is here with me and the first book is not. I did get Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, even though I never finished the Grisha series because I was told that Six of Crows is even better. Someday I'll find out if that's true. These are the first two books in Alison Goodman's Dark Days Club trilogy. I'm not going to show you the covers because I don't have them. They were strips from Barnes & Noble, but I have not yet read them. Alison Goodman also wrote Eon and Iona, which was this duology that I really liked when I was a kid, and I really wanted to read her new books, but I haven't yet. Okay, so this is a corner of that top shelf of the lower bookcase. And just for some of the little things I'm gonna get out of the way, this is a porcelain yarn jar. So it holds your ball of yarn and you can loop the yarn through it so that when you're knitting, it doesn't roll all over the floor. This is very important when you have a cat and need to contain your yarn. Speaking of a cat, this is a cat toy. This is where the cat toy goes, apparently. I don't know why it's here, but it's on top of my books. Okay, so this top shelf is special because all of the books that we are about to look at, for the most part, are signed, or they're either signed or they're on the top because they are part of a series where one of the books is signed. I had to make these piles here on either side, and you'll see the other one that's over there, because obviously the books wouldn't stand up otherwise, and I'm hoping that it's kind of okay if I don't deconstruct this pile or the other pile entirely, because I don't want my books to fall over. But for an idea of what is in this pile, we have Where the Mountain Meets the Moon by Grace Lynn, The Good Luck Girls by Charlotte Nicole Davis. This was before this book had a cover. It's the ARC version of it. The Girl King by Mimi Yu. The Boneless Mercies by April Genevieve Chuchulk. Shadow of the Fox by Julie Kagawa. Again, the ARC before it had a cover. Oh, and Girl King and Boneless Mercies were also ARCs. This is a lot of ARCs because a lot of these are from Book Expo America. And also signed The Monster Baru Cormorant by Seth Dickinson. Of the books I just mentioned, I've only actually read Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. because I had to read it for school, because that's what my life has been for a really long time. The two books that I don't want to move, because this entire thing will start to fall over, these are two books by S.A. Chakraborty, and it's The Kingdom of Copper and The City of Brass, two of the three books in this series. They're both ARCs that I got from Barnes & Noble. These are not signed, but because of their trim size, they fit perfectly right here, so this is where they went. All right, so moving this way, these two books are actually a series. This is Storm Runner by J.C. Cervantes and The Firekeeper by J.C. Cervantes. This is two books in a Rick Riordan Presents series. Both of these are ARCs and both of these are signed. In another series that is not yet completed, I have Roar by Cora Carmack and Rage by Cora Carmack. This is an ARC that is signed by the author. This is the hardcover of the first book, which I bought. I have read neither of these. For another two-book series, I just finished my thesis for my graduate program on the book covers of the author Renee Ahdieh, and these are two of the books that she has written. Once again, I'm hesitant to show you the front of Flame in the Mist because it doesn't have a cover. It's a strip from Barnes & Noble, but Smoke in the Sun does have its beautiful cover. This is a hardcover that I purchased to finish out the series. Neither of those are signed, but they're on this top shelf to sit with Renee Ahdieh's latest book, The Beautiful. I got this at the last Book Expo America, and it is signed. I sat in line for 2 hours because I love her. This is Sayatani Dasgupta's The Serpent's Secret. Again, this along with the J.C. Cervantes books and When the Mountain Meets the Moon, again, some random middle grade that pops up. This is signed by the author. I got it at a Book Expo America the first year that I went. This is Amy Rose Capetta's The Brilliant Death. It is a signed copy, but I never met the author. It was brought that way into Barnes & Noble. This is Hey Kiddo by Jarrett Kroska. It's a graphic novel memoir. I was honored to introduce Jarrett at an event last summer, and so this is signed from when I met him then. Two books here by Sarah Reese Brennan, even though they're not related. This is Team Human, which she wrote with Justine Labrassiere, and her book Unspoken, the first book in the LIBRARIAN legacy. I met her, I bought these, and I had her sign them at one of the first author signings I ever went to. I should mention, again, I've had these for forever. I haven't read them. I've read Hey Kiddo because I had to for school. I literally have not read any of the rest of these. Honestly, just assume I haven't read it. It's better that way. Coming this way, we have an ARC of Ignite the Stars by Maura Milan, an ARC of Mackenzie Lee's Loki, which I almost died getting that signed last BEA. That line was insane. This is an ARC of Dry by Neil and Jared Schusterman, signed by the both of them. And over here in this corner, we have Dragon Watch by Brendan Mull. It's a finished copy, but it's also signed by the author. I got it at Book Expo America. So as you can see, I've just shifted the camera a little bit to get us to this last stack of books here on the end. There's where Dragon Watch, Dry, Loki, etc. are right here. This pile of stuff here in the corner is because this is a whiteboard. I'm currently doing online writing classes for my library, which is closed due to the pandemic. And I keep, my whiteboard cleaner and all my whiteboard markers here. So I'm just gonna shove this. And once again, I'm hoping that it's cool if I don't unpack this totally, but this pile is Seafire by Natalie C. Parker. This is the ARC of this book. The books no longer have this cover. They were recovered when the second book came out. So this is one of the only instances of this cover. This is Nocturna by Maya Montaigne. It is a finished copy, but I got it at Book Expo America and it is signed. This is Catherine Arden's Small Spaces. She will show up again down on the bottom for Bear and the Nightingale. This is her middle grade horror as opposed to her adult fantasy, but she was one of the nicest authors I've ever had sign a book, and I figured that was special enough to separate her books and put her on the top shelf. This is Toche Onyebuchi's War Girls, also an ARC and signed. Alex London's Black Wings Beating, also an ARC and also signed. Tara Sims' Scavenge the Stars, also an ARC and also signed. I've read none of the books in this pile, just so we're clear. This is You Bring the Distant Near by Matali Perkins. I met her at the same event that I met Jarrett Kroska. This is signed and I have actually read it. The final two books in this stack are by Alison Weir. They're the first two books in her series on Henry VIII's 6 Wives. So this is Catherine of Aragon and Anne Boleyn. I have not yet read them. I started reading Catherine of Aragon. It was a little bit dense, so wasn't what I was feeling during school. All right, so once again, we have a thing on the second shelf of this, well, the first real shelf of this bookshelf, the second shelf, and it does have something on it. It has this wonderful pillow that says, "I cannot live without books," because obviously I can't. All right, so getting started, we have some more adult historical fiction kind of hiding out down here because it didn't fit on the other shelf. Once again, hitting you with that ancient Egypt theme. This is Wilbur Smith's Pharaoh and Wilbur Smith's Desert God. Haven't read either of them, but they were about ancient Egypt, so I bought them. I have no conceptual idea what the first two books that Renee Ahdieh ever wrote are doing separated from the rest of her books. I'm gonna have to fix that. But this is The Wrath and the Dawn and The Rose and the Dagger by Renee Ahdieh, and unlike many other books, I've read these and I've loved them. They're so good, and I highly, highly recommend them. They're based on the story of 1001 Nights. These are 3 books by the author Rochelle Mead. I love her Vampire Academy books and the Bloodlines novels that followed. I own the entirety of both the Vampire Academy and Bloodlines, but I only have 2 of them here with me, and that's Fiery Heart and Ruby Circle. This is a standalone novel that she did called Soundless that I still haven't read, but someday I will. But I actually just did a reread of Ruby Circle because, oh, so good! This is slightly deceptive. This is Traitor to the Throne and Hero at the Fall by Alwyn Hamilton, and it looks like I only own the second and third books of this trilogy. I don't. I do also own the first book, Rebel of the Sands, but I read it so long ago before I had picked up and read these 2 books. I did finish the series. I read these. That it's actually in a box at my stable parents' home right now. So this right here, this thing in the center that says Penguin Teen Game Changers is actually 5 different books, 5 different arcs that came in this awesome box from Penguin Teen, which is kind of why it's centered in this shelf, because it's so super cool. So this is kind of difficult. It's a little bit of an unboxing. Hold with me for a second here. The first one is Forest of a Thousand Lanterns by Julie C. Dow. So there's your slipcover and then the actual book. This one is Things I'm Seeing Without You by Peter Bognani. This one is There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins, except for it's not the whole book. They only sent a partial for this one. This is Jane Unlimited by Kristen Cashore, who's one of my favorite authors. We'll see another one of her books later. And then finally we have Marie Lu's Warcross. Speaking of Warcross, here is Marie Lu's Wild Card. Out of that entire box, Warcross was the only one that I read, and then I got Marie Lu's Wild Card at BEA the first year I went and got it signed and also read it. So those are the ones that I've read. This is Robin Lefever's Grave Mercy. It's still tabbed up from when I used it for my undergraduate thesis. And this is its follow-up, Dark Triumph, which I have not read. There's also a 3rd book in the series, but as you can see, female assassins, it's a thing with me. These are 2 books by Annie Sullivan, Tiger Queen, which is her most recent, and A Touch of Gold, which is one of the first books that I ever got at Book Expo America, and they are both signed because I saw her both years that I've gone. These are the first 2 books in Rin Chupeco's Bone Witch series. Bone Witch is unfortunately paperback and Heart Forager is hardcover. I don't know why. I couldn't just wait to get Heart Forager in paperback because I still haven't read either of these, but they don't match, and that kind of makes me sad now. This is Nnedi Okorafor's Akata Witch and Akata Warrior. This is a duology that is kind of like African Harry Potter. It's amazing. I love it. Neither of them have covers because they were both strips. Sorry. Moving down a shelf, we're gonna hit you with a little bit more adult fantasy. We have Tessa Gratton's Queen of Innisleer. Again, I think I love Tessa Gratton. I've never read a book. Daughters of the Storm by Kim Wilkins. It was blurred by Tamora Pierce, so I bought it. Still haven't read it. Erin Morgenstern's The Night Circus. Purchased because everybody thinks it's freaking amazing. Still haven't read it. Madeline Miller's Circe. Purchased because coworkers at Barnes & Noble told me that it was amazing. Still haven't read it. This is The Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro. It's hardly the only Kazuo Ishiguro book that I own and love, but it's the only one with me. You can see where it's still tabbed because I wrote a paper on it. And some more sneaky historical fiction. This is Connor Golden's War of the Roses first book, Stormbird, based obviously on the English War of the Roses. This is Amy Reed's The Nowhere Girls. This I have read, and it is an incredible story dealing with sexual assault and female power. It's just really good. If that's your cup of tea, it is worth reading. Lauren Oliver's Replica. This book is super cool. It's read from either side, from Lyra's point of view or Gemma's point of view. I still haven't read it. I really, really loved Kendar Blake's Anna Dressed in Blood, so I bought Anti-Goddess. I haven't read it. This is Francesca Zappia's Eliza and Her Monsters. I read it after reading Fangirl because I heard that it was like Fangirl. This is so much better than Fangirl. Ugh. If you loved Fangirl, you have to read this one. I own and have read the entire Divergent series by Veronica Roth, but I have been carrying around with me the final book in the series, Allegiant, just in case I want to reread the end of this book. Told you Kristen Cashore would make a reappearance, and here she is. This is her first book, Graceling, and it's still tabbed up from when I used it for my undergraduate thesis. I own both Shadowscale and Seraphina, which is the first book in this duology by Rachel Hartman, but I only have Shadowscale here with me. I also own Anna and the French Kiss and Isla and the Happily Ever After by Stephanie Perkins, but the only book that I have in that series with me on my bookshelf is Lola and the Boy Next Door. Can you imagine that we've had 5 books in a row that I've actually read? Because it's about to end. This is Sarah Henning's Sea Witch. It's Ariel told from Ursula's point of view, which is amazing, but I still haven't read it. This is Donna Hosey's The 48. It's a historical fiction book where a modern girl travels back in time to the court of Henry VIII. Still haven't read it. Author Sarah Rosh has been recommended to me many, many times. This is a new series that she had started with These Rebel Waves. Still haven't read it. Heart of Thorns by Bree Barton is another fairy tale retelling. That was on sale, so I bought it. I absolutely love author Jodi Meadows, so I bought the first book in her newest series, Fallen Isles trilogy. This is before she ignites. I will eventually buy the other books in the series because I love Jodi Meadows, but I actually haven't started it yet. And this is Adrienne Young's Sky in the Deep. Love me some Vikings, but I haven't read it. Okay guys, so the top shelf of this bookshelf was autograph books. The second one was series and autograph books. This shelf was hardcover. The shelf down below is paperbacks or ARCs. I cannot get on the floor. My knee is not doing so well today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the books from that bottom shelf up to this shelf and show them to you. Cool? Awesome. First, we've got some more library rejects. This is 8 by H.M. Castor. It's about Henry VIII. I know you're shocked. This is Susan Dennard's Wind Witch. I have read the first book in this series, Truth Witch. I want to continue reading it. Haven't gotten there yet, but I took this from the library. And this is a 3-book series by A.C. Goffin. This is Scarlet, Lady Thief, and Lionheart. This is a female Robin Hood retelling that has been interesting to me for a while, but I haven't read, so I also took this from the library. This is Theodora Goss's The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter, also signed, but just down here on the bottom because it didn't fit on the autograph shelf, is in a series and is paperback, so yay, lax organization. Purchased and signed at the same event where I got the Goss novel. This is Amberlow by Laura Elena Donnelly. This is more A.C. Goffin. This is The Elementai Imprison the Sky. I got this at my first Book Expo America. An Arc of Reign the Fallen by Sarah Glenn Marsh. An Arc of Mirage by Somaya Dodd. I have read this. It is Arabic sci-fi and very, very worth a read. An Arc of The Similars by Rebecca Hanover. An Arc of The Good Demon by Jimmy Kajolius. An Arc of Slay by Brittany Morris. An Arc of Serpent and Dove by Shelby Maheron. An Arc of Beneath the Citadel by Destiny Soria. An Arc of Grim Lovelies by Megan Shepherd. This is not an arc. This is a paperback of Sweet Evil by Wendy Higgins. I own the entire series, and I love it. This is the first book, and it's a very under the radar paranormal romance, young adult series, but it's very cute and very good. An Arc of Rule by Ellen Goodlett. An arc of The Beast is an Animal by Petronelle Van Arsdale. This is an arc of Rory Power's Wilder Girls, which I have in fact read. I had to read it for school. I honestly thought that it was going to be better than it was. I really did. Told you Catherine Arden would make a reappearance. Here is The Bale and Nightingale in paperback. This is one of the most highly recommended books that came out of my coworkers at Barnes & Noble, and someday I'll actually get around to reading it. This is a paperback middle grade book, Property of the Rebel Librarian, which is a book that I did for a book club at my library. It's all about censorship and the power of reading, and it's one of my favorite books. It's so cute and adorable, and if you believe in librarians and are not for censorship, I highly, highly recommend. I don't own a lot of graphic novels, but when I do, they're amazing. This is This One Summer by Jillian Tamaki and Mariko Tamaki, still tabbed up from when I had to write a paper on it. An Arc of Zenith by Sasha Alsberg and Lindsay Cummings. Not read. We're back to the not read. And last but not least, an arc of Emily A. Duncan's Wicked Saints. Alright guys, that was a lot of books. That was a lot of unread books. Hopefully you saw some favorites. Maybe you saw some books that I should read. I will also take suggestions on books that I shouldn't read. So if you're like, yeah, I read it, but it wasn't what I hoped it would be, tell me. I don't want to waste my time when I could be reading something awesome. So please let me know if you have any suggestions, which ones you think that I should read first. And I am going to first enjoy reading whatever the heck I want. Also, second, possibly not read at all. I might need to take some time to not be reading a ton of things all at once. But I really, really hope to get this TBR challenge kicked off, and hopefully you'll see a bunch of these titles coming your way soon as I actually read my way through these books. So thank you so much for taking all of this time with me. I'm so happy to be back with you guys, and hopefully you'll see more videos from me soon. Thanks guys. Bye.